Hello and welcome to the Two Ace Podcast, the podcast designed to help you manifest your Two Ace mindsets. My name is Josh Brooks and my one focus is success through the art of discipline and flow. I hope you enjoy the episode. Now let's get right into it. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you are listening to this. I hope you're having a good one, and today I'm going to be talking about how to navigate dips in motivation and how depression is actually a good thing. And today I'm joined with Nicole here. So, how are you doing, Nicole? If you'd like to introduce yourself briefly.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Nicole Harrington, and I love that topic. Absolutely. There's so many ways depression actually shows up in our life, and we don't even recognize it. And then that's where we end up in a potentially deeper, darker situation. So I love the idea of noticing those things before it becomes a bigger problem.
Cool. So I believe you're a narrative coach. So how do you use this in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I think of like our narrative as how we're explaining the past or what we've been through or what we're going through. So that's the words we're using are very powerful, and sometimes we don't even notice that we're being negative or explaining something in a negative way, and it can be turned into a positive.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that sort of the power of positive thinking and sort of being optimistic about life in sort of a realistic aspect is a pretty good way to sort of move forward, move through, hard times, sort of build mental toughness. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I love that you put the realistic point, because we're not like lying to ourselves or like, you know, like rose-colored glasses. That is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so so with that in mind, sort of the rose-colored glasses, how do you think that people that maybe aren't so optimistic, or people that are actually going through, these dips in motivation, this depression, how do you think they're gonna listen to it? If they're maybe got a cloud above their head and they, well, I'd assume that if people listen to this, they want to change. But
Hmm.
let's say someone's almost listened to this out of willpower. They're trying to build willpower, and they sort of have these negative thoughts, and they're trying to build from the very ground up. Like, is there anything that you'd say sort of inspire them to get up off the floor in a way?
Yeah, I love the visuals. You're actually cloud above your head. I love that visual because it shows like it's just something above your head. There's more to it. You know, that visual I love because it makes it feel easier and more hopeful. So if someone is in that situation, just visualizing that and feeling like this is just temporary. Um, yeah, if they're here, then they want to do the work, and that's great. I don't know if I really answered your question right there, but so I think when I first started doing this work, it did feel like I was surrounded by the negativity, even though you're under the cloud, it is surrounding you. So I had to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great thought. And with rain, you're gonna grow. So the weather does
Ooh,
change.
yes, I love that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
is that what you do in your work? You inspire people through your own actions.
absolutely. Yeah, through my own story and my actions. That's mostly I'm posting every day, just sharing because I'm still experiencing depression every day.
Hmm.
I'm still stumbling, but it's not a fall on my face
Yeah.
anymore. And if I did fall on my face, then I know how to support myself to get back up.
Yeah, that's really good. It's it's good to hear that you accept that it's still a part of you, and I think I value that because you don't just decide. I mean, I believe that you can decide that you're just not. You can just do it. You can just be like, you know what? I've reached a point and I'm in this dip. I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah, you might still feel muddy from being in that dip. I'm thinking of all the analogies today.
I
But,
love that. Yeah.
you're still going to get up out of the ditch despite being muddy. If you know what I'm trying to say, you're still going to feel those things or have those thought loops, those habits that maybe got you into that pit in the first place. But it's about changing the way you think and changing those habits and consistently looking for that 1% improvement and compounding on your efforts to, keep moving forward, right?
Yeah. I love how the words you're using actually because you're very much painting a picture, a visual. Like almost like a lot of the words you're using to explain like bumps, like dip, like all of those are actually visual words. So um it's I just love a good visual. So if but when I did find myself when I first started doing this work, I used to say like I'm diving into the deep end. That was my biggest visual. And when I was picturing that, I was actually picturing an empty pool.
Mm.
So it can be harmful. So if you're
Oh
picturing
wow.
when you say, yeah, I know. I'm like, so when I recognized that, I was like, I really took a step back and I was like, okay, Nicole, like baby steps. Start picturing water in that pool when you say that. Start picturing jello in that pool when you say that. Start picturing like something fluffy and supportive when you say that. So if you picture like you're stepping in a puddle and you actually picture it like a huge puddle that's really deep and your whole body is getting wet, like what are you really picturing can help. um,
Yeah, I really like that analogy actually. The empty pool. It really does sort of it puts the almost dramatic spin on it, on how actually like serious it can be. Because when you said the diving into the deep end, I sort of imagined you know just a classic analogy of if you can't swim, getting in the deep end and you figure it out. But if you're thrown in the deep end with an empty pool, you're at the bottom of the pool. Like you can't float.
yeah, yeah, I like actually how you explained it. I pictured like climbing in the stairs or like I actually pictured the surface of the water more than looking down on a high dive. I'm a swimmer, so I've
Oh
spent a
yeah.
lot of time in the pool. Um, but just how you explained it, I more pictured the surface, which
Hmm.
is nice.
That's good. Well, I'm sure sort of swimming is about the longevity of it. It's about making sure you keep doing those your form's correct. It's not about how fast you go. It's about making sure that you're doing the right form so you can get to the end and back, and then the end again and back, and keep doing the lengths. And I'm sure that analogy can be applied in terms of mental well-being. I'm sure that's what you do. It seems like you do sort of practice your physical hobbies in terms of your mentality. If you found that swimming's been a good sort of like energetic release, energetic kind of activity to help has helped.
Yeah, yes, yes. Actually, I very much use it as a way to support. For example, if let's say I just got off a phone call, like a denial, something difficult, someone just, you know, you got denied from a job or, something like that. Something that's really frustrating, it's hard to swallow. Or I'm angry at an example. I actually, if I'm able, I'll just go jump in the pool. Or so when I jump in the pool, I'm like, okay, I'm angry, but I'm leaving it all on the deck. And as soon as I hit the water, like it's behind me. So it's like a real physical like a physical, like I hit the water. Um,
Nice. Yeah, you must
yeah.
feel so great after it as well, especially if beforehand, you got that anger or that negativity,
Yeah.
the swimming must really benefit you. And I read a while ago that a doctor had said that the best form of physical activity or exercise is the one you actually do. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something. Like
Hmm. Yeah.
I, I've been getting into swimming lately. I
Nice.
like to do after a workout. Just do like 10 lengths, and then go sit in the steam room. And I've
That's
noticed
great.
that, yeah, I've noticed it's just because I like to do the 10 lengths, so I set just 10 as my goal. And I've noticed that when I first started out, I used to always think, I'd be counting it. I'd be like, right, okay, that's one, that's two, that's three, and I'd notice that my breathing would go, and I'd end up swallowing water and nearly drowning, or I'd be trying to do it too fast and then getting really tired out. But then when I stopped counting and just being like, I'm just gonna swim until I've swam, I noticed that one, I enjoyed it way more, and two, I was better. I wasn't drowning.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, sort of, you mentioned how you post every single day. Is
Hmm.
that something that keeps you going?
Um, I wouldn't say that. It just like is a part of my routine, really. I've recognized that like when I get into a routine that's working, especially, like it just feels good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And also like sharing is a part of it's my passion to be helping people who are have experience, know someone who has depression. So just like jumping on this interview with you, like, you know, like I love this work. It's important and it's helping people. So it's a little more deeper rooted than like just sharing my life or, you know,
Yeah. So
yeah.
what sort of factors do you think actually influence or impact mental health and mental well-being?
What factors like what do you mean like by factors?
Like the first one that comes to mind is sleep. If I don't get
Hmm.
enough sleep or if I'm not consistent with my sleep, then it affects my day-to-day life, and I'm, well, tired more,
Yeah.
and I'm more prone to being angsty or angry or sad. And
Yes.
mental health, mental toughness, mental well-being is it's a crucial part of humanity. And I feel like a lot of people can sort of disregard like habits or things that they do in their life because they're trying to pursue pleasure. Like, I don't know, another example that just comes to mind, like eating a chocolate bar. Yeah, it's great in the moment. It's, I like chocolate, but there's a point where eating, if you're eating 6 chocolate bars a day, there's a point where it's a bit like that's probably not beneficial for your mental health. So what I'm trying to get at is there anything in particular, any habits, any activities or ways of thinking, sort of like cycles in a way that you think that directly impacts how the brain works and how thinking and that kind of side of it works.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Let's use your example of sleeping. That was a good one. So when I notice that I'm tired, I'm more likely to make mistakes.
Mm.
So if I'm recognizing that I'm tired, and you mentioned like if you're tired every day, then it's really starts with being nice to yourself, like being like gentle, like, good job, Nicole, you're doing a great job. Just because when you're tired, you're more prone to just making mistakes. It's just how it is, right? And if we're not getting the right amount of sleep, consistently, then you really need to be good, like gentle with your actions and what you're doing. So if you can pair noticing you're not getting enough sleep with noticing your actions and you're not living up to your potential, being a little hard on yourself, and pairing those two um, uh, what's it called? Like pairing those two things together can help you get out of a depression. So let me explain that again. With the chocolate bar, if I'm eating 6 chocolate bars, there's some reason. So I try to not be hard on myself if I'm doing something like that, but I also want to recognize, because you're right, it's not healthy to be eating so much sugar, right?
I mean, the
But
one-off is it's all right now and again, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, like, I've eaten 6 chocolate bars before. I felt a bit sick afterwards, but as long as you're not doing it twice a day, it's all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Sorry.
It's easy to do though, it's so easy to do things that um so with the chocolate bars, it's like I think it's about your mind and your body aren't quite connected. Your mind wants to eat all this sugar, and there's a reason, because maybe you're craving it, you want it, there's some reason, but you're potentially could be giving it to yourself in a healthier way.
Mm.
Like what is the actual thing, the reason you're wanting the chocolate, and instead give it to yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Um, I have this sheet I always keep on me because it helps. If I'm craving French fries, then I probably need more fish oil, and I can give myself fish oil without actually eating something unhealthy like French fries.
Yeah. I feel like in that situation, it is really important to find like the replacements, because if you are craving something, then your body is telling your mind, "Hey, I'm lacking this. I need this. Give me this." And
Yes.
it's like if you are, if your body is craving sugar, a healthy alternative, which is what I started replacing my chocolate eating with, is fruit. I eat so much fruit now, and it's great. I feel way better for it, and it's healthier and cheap. Well, not cheaper necessarily, but swings and roundabouts, right? Um,
You can
but
eat more of it and not feel
yeah,
um, eat as much fruit as you want. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, for me, when I was craving French fries, and I started eating more fish, like salmon, and I started recognizing that I wasn't craving French fries anymore. So this piece comes in of like finding the positive, the evidence. It's so the evidence here is that you stopped eating chocolate and you replaced it with fruit and it worked. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you find the evidence in one area of your life, me eating French fries, switching to fish oil or salmon, then, and it worked, I no longer crave French fries, hold on to that evidence and use it to help in other areas of your life.
yeah, definitely. And I love that. How you do one thing to how you do everything way of thinking, because it all links to the abundance mindset. And I was looking at your socials, and I believe you're an advocate for the abundance mindset. So
Yes.
how do you use that
Oh
in
my
your
gosh.
day-to-day life?
It's so much harder than we think, because if you're running late for an appointment, that's scarcity on time. If you're let's just use that example, right? Like that's everybody has experienced that, right? Like, you know, driving an hour to get somewhere like you mentioned you did today, like potentially during that drive you're feeling like rushed for time or um, the sun's going down, I want to get home, whatever it is, time is like so easy to feel scarcity. So just recognizing when we're doing that, when are you feeling that scarcity mindset and switch it to abundance. I mean, there's a clock in the car. So if you're late for something, you're like, oh my gosh, I have 4 minutes. Scarcity.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like scarcity and maybe even time itself is a definite is a huge impact influence on mental health, because if you're constantly looking at the clock, are you even making the most of your time if you're just counting seconds? Like, we live in the four dimensions. We live in time, space, light, and matter. If you can master your time, space, and your light and your matter, then you live in abundance, right? You can manage your time effectively and invest your time in the things that you love and the people that you love. If you spend the time, if you surround yourself with the people you love, your space management, people that are going to build with you, people that are going to provide value to you and others, you're going to live in an abundant life. If you live and learn with light in mind, spreading that value, spreading positivity and light, you're going to live in abundance, right? And with matter is yourself. You can master yourself. If you can know your internal and external environment, yourself, again, abundance.
Yeah, you explained that really well. I like that. The light aspect, I think for sure in my past, old Nicole, I like to call her, she she didn't want to piss anyone off or say anything controversial, so or even like be too bright because I didn't want attention. So I very much, you know, quieted my light. I very much hid my light. Um, so that one for sure speaks to my past, just needing to accept that I can't change anyone, how they feel, what they're doing. So don't change myself to cater to other people's reactions or judgment.
Exactly. You got to be authentic. Authenticity is, I don't know, I feel like on something like this or on social media, you can very much feel like an imposter syndrome. I've heard people talk about that before, and you might be experiencing, if you're telling people about all this positive stuff, and in your mind you have that potential self doubt, then you could see like the authenticity sort of. What I'm trying to say here is that being authentic is truly valuable, and having that imposter syndrome just sort of highlights how much value you're spreading, because if you're saying words and then you're thinking about the words that you've just said and you're like, wait, did I just say that? Am I acting about on my words? Then it shows that you got intuition, right? You're questioning yourself, because no matter how much self-belief you have and no matter how little doubt you have in your mind, whatever you say comes from whatever you think, and whatever you do comes from whatever you say. So if you say something before you've done it, you then know that the next thing you do is going to be from what you say. There's a quote that I've got on my wall. I wrote it a while back, and it's from Marcus Aurelius. He's one of my favourite Stoics, favourite writers. I'm reading the Meditations right now, and he says basically what I just said. He says you should watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. What's your actions because they become your character? What's your character because it becomes your destiny? In effect, your thoughts become your destiny.
Yes. Can you say the name of it?
Marcus Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius? I'm gonna look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Yes. It's um it can feel overwhelming a bit because it's like, oh, every single thought now it has to be perfect. And that also is a part of imposter syndrome, actually. So my thought on imposter syndrome is if you're comparing yourself, which it's so easy to do when it's so easy to see other people's examples if you're scrolling on social media, but if you're scrolling on that's my point really is you're feeling that imposter syndrome because you are looking at other people's examples. You are
Yeah,
scrolling and seeing other people's examples, otherwise you maybe wouldn't be feeling that. So if you are feeling that, stop looking at other people's examples. Like, because when you are, I like you mentioned, like when you're saying something and you're already kind of judging it on the spot, you're in your head. You're
mm,
very much in your head and reconnecting with your heart and why you're doing it, why you're doing this is connecting with your heart versus staying in your head and comparing yourself.
yeah. I feel like the imposter syndrome it is not necessarily a bad thing because if you're, I feel like there's a better way to put it. It's more like just being inquisitive, being curious about how creative you're being. In that, like, if I'm saying and doing things, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm able to do that and that other people are able to do that. And it's like, I believe authenticity is like a crucial and a core value that I like in people and I like in myself, and I aim to be authentic as I can. And if I say something that I'm like, whoa, it's like if I'm spreading that value, I want to make sure that I'm acting out my own words. I'm practicing what I preach. So it's about that self belief that you're being authentic. At the end of the day.
Yeah, and actually, that is a huge quality I make sure before my coach needs to be authentic and practicing what he preaches. He's always saying this, that it's important to him also. So that's a good character in a coach too. Can you please explain what you mean by authentic?
Just being you.
Like, does that mean like would you be showing every part of yourself to everyone? Like, what does that actually look like?
Maybe not necessarily like there's lines, right? I'm not gonna be talking about authenticity is about spreading your beliefs to how you truly believe them, and being who you are with your audience as you are with your friends, with your family. But there is lines to it. I'm not going to be talking about very personal matters with the entire audience because they don't need to know that.
Hmm.
Like something that I talk about with my mum, I don't talk about my friends with it. Why would I talk about it with the audience? You know what I mean? Like, I think authenticity. There's almost levels to it, but it's just being transparent. Like not having like a different personality or like a different persona, a different person who you are. Like if I came on here and almost spoke in a different voice than I usually do, and spoke to people or spoke to yourself, like like I was absolutely amazing and I'd conquered all my demons and I was so rich and so wealthy and I'd done this and I'd done that and I've achieved all my dreams. That's not authentic. I haven't. I'm still here. I still struggle with mental battles. Obviously, I'm human. I
Yeah,
still I still struggle to get up in the morning. My whole thing is the four pillars of 2 Ace: discipline, flow, consistency, and achievement. Being disciplined, getting up when
that's
you
on
don't
your
want to.
profile. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
getting up when you don't want to. That's a big thing, and that's a big thing that I had to work through. I'm better at it than I used to be. Cause I used to just be, my alarm would go off. I'd snooze for like 3 hours. What's all that about? You know, I don't snooze for 3 hours now because I've developed it to a point. But there's some days where I snooze for an hour maybe. But more often than not, I am pretty disciplined with it. But like I said, if I wasn't authentic, I'd be like, yeah, I wake up at 4:30 every single morning, no breaks. I go to the gym straight away, do my ice bath every day. No, I don't. I want to. That'd be great. That's so ideal. If I could wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get in my ice bath for 10 minutes, do a workout, do some like half an hour meditation. That's so ideal. But that's perfection, right? You can only ever strive for that.
Yeah,
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 that's
thank you for explaining that because it is speaking about this really comes back to imposter syndrome too. Is like some people are doing that. They're presenting a face where they're doing everything right, and often we don't speak about the times we're snoozing our alarm because that can come with negativity. It can come with um, feeling like you're doing something wrong. But it's really where is your mind at? Like when you're snoozing, also. If you're snoozing and you're always giving yourself a hard time about it, then potentially, hi Lily. Oh,
hello.
she came right at you. um, yeah, hi, boo boo. If you're snoozing, oh, come here. Sorry, I love my kitties.
It's all right. It's a good note on authenticity. She's gotta make a face.
Yeah, she wanted to point in that she's very consistent going outside now. um, if I'm every morning I'm snoozing and I'm giving myself a really hard time about it, and I'm just like that, there's inconsistency because your actions aren't lining up with your thoughts. You're snoozing because you need extra sleep, but your thoughts are holding you back of it. This is wrong. This is not a good thing. That's the same as your mind and your body are not connected. Um,
So is that how you view authenticity?
that's a good question. I think authenticity in my past was I didn't want to be authentic because I didn't want conflict. I didn't want people getting mad at me if they're expressing that they don't like something and that is how I feel. Is that not being authentic if you don't share? I don't think so.
Yeah, you got to share
Um,
the ups and downs, right? You can't. No one person is always getting the wins. Everyone has losses to an extent.
yeah, yeah,
If Yeah, and if you don't show them, then why?
yeah. Okay, I was trying to think of a story, but it's maybe is just a little too complicated. I'm not sure how
Go
to
for it.
explain it. um, because sometimes, like, I don't want to deal with conflict. So in my past, I would tell a bit of a lie. Like, so it actually is when I'm feeling conflict or feeling uncomfortable with someone, my immediate reaction might be to like just like play it off as if it's not a big deal. Like play it off. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
that. So that in itself isn't being authentic, really. Like if
Mm.
I'm not speaking my truth, but I'm also uncomfortable in that situation. So I'm not saying like I'm lying, but I'm saying like I'm not feeling authentic. Like, but that's how am I describing the situation? Like, so instead of like tripping on my feet, which is how I'm looking at it, of like just stumbling my words because I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm I very have to actively like pause in those situations. Like just take a step back and like not say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's important to sort of balance the authenticity with like well, not balance authenticity with anything. You know, you got to be authentic, but it's important to balance how much you're telling people with how much you get to keep for yourself. Because if you're just telling everyone everything, then you don't, you know, you gotta have that personal value to keep for yourself because you know otherwise you just let everyone take everything from you. And there's a quote. Do you know? Have you heard of a guy called Luke Belmar?
No.
Okay, so this guy called Luke Belmar. He said this quote. He said something like, "The more you have, the more that can be taken away from you."
Hmm. Blue
And in the sense
Bell.
that you know, if you buy all these houses, all these cars, that can be taken away from you. All that you truly have is yourself, and in the moment, that's all that matters. You just gotta. I don't know. I find myself a lot thinking about the future, being worried about what's to come, maybe thinking about things that have happened in the past, and I feel like anxiety is linked to the constant worry about what's to come, whereas depression is linked to hanging on to the past. You know, the feelings, the actions, the thoughts, and I've seen this. I've seen this visual, and it's someone carrying three rocks. They're carrying a rock for the past, they're carrying a rock for the future, and then a rock for the present. And they're trying to walk, and they're not getting anywhere because they're carrying this huge weight. And
Cool.
then and then they dropped two of the rocks, so they dropped the past rock and the future rock, and they were just carrying the present rock, and they were able to figure out how to strap it to them and put it in a backpack, so they could have the hands free to do all the things.
I
And
really appreciate that. Yes. Yes, you're really I could tell you understood what I just tried to explain because I think when I'm start stumbling on my words, when I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm not in the present moment. I'm not focused on how I'm feeling, and I'm just like trying to I'm probably like old Nicole used to stumble in this situation. I'm thinking about that, or I'm thinking about how when I go home after this I can already tell after this conversation, I'm probably going to regret some things I'm saying. You know, like I don't want to regret anything I'm saying. So I'm like worried that I'm not saying the right things. So yeah,
what's
reconnecting
the
with the
right thing?
present.
What's the
Reconnecting
right
with the
thing?
present.
Oh yeah,
That's a
sorry.
good question. What do you need in the present moment is what's the right thing.
Exactly.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
I feel like in times you know I have just a few just words written down because I like to keep myself on the ball. So because I'm the same as you, I can find myself being like just thinking about thoughts, thinking about what I've just said, what I'm gonna say, where I'm trying to leave the sentence, I don't know. I've just learned to go with the flow. Like
Yeah.
there's
Be
another
present.
quote. Exactly. There's another quote that I love, and it's from Bruce Lee. He said, flow like water. If water is poured into a cup, it becomes the cup. If water is poured into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. The whole point is, you don't know where you're gonna, you don't know where you're gonna be poured. You don't know where the wind's gonna blow you. You just gotta allow it, allow the things to come to you, rather than force it so hard that you have that almost analysis paralysis and you don't know what to say. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like in times of depression, it can be very hard to actually take that first step, because you're so worried about, oh, but the last time I took a step, this happened. Oh, but what if I take the step wrong or with the wrong foot, kind of thing. And it's like, just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's again the evidence piece because our past evidence is not a positive. So moving forward, just trying to almost like force yourself to find positive evidence. Like just this morning, like we were talking about the example of, me jumping in the pool if I'm having a harder time. So, this morning I'm having a hard time waking up. I'm taking a shower, which helps, and I'm like, I should go jump in the pool. And usually when I have that thought, I go do it. But this morning I chose not to. So my evidence could be that I don't stick to my word. But
Hmm.
instead, I ended up having a great conversation, laughing with my husband. So it's like my evidence is that I trusted my instincts and I ended up having a great, funny conversation with my husband. And if I jumped in the pool, I wouldn't have had that. So, what are we looking at? What evidence are we finding in our life? What story what words are we using to describe it is the secret sauce.
What do you mean? Using to describe what?
What words are we using to describe? Like, I could have said, Nicole, you don't stick to your word. When you think to jump in the pool, you're going to go jump in the pool. You said you're going to do that.
Hmm.
I don't stick to my word. That's not true.
Yeah. Well, you gotta let yourself off the hook sometimes. Just
Yeah,
allow the
and
opportunities to come to you.
yes. And so the words I'm choosing to describe this instead are that I wouldn't have had that beautiful conversation with my husband. Like that's the evidence is
Yeah, that is great to hear, and I feel like putting that putting that positive spin on something that could potentially have perceived it as negative, or perhaps the old Nicole would have perceived that as negative, and you putting that spin on it instantly, you're changing that habit, you're breaking that cycle of negativity, and you're just sparking
thank
that
you.
change in yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great
you.
to see.
Yeah. And it's a work in progress every day. Like it's not, that's why I like to say I still experience depression every day because that's a form of depression. Recognizing that in this instance, I could have been really hard on myself and I chose not to.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the first step to the discovery of truth is acceptance, right? You've got to accept where you are if you want to change.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah,
Acceptance.
acceptance, and sort of on that topic was, would you like to dive into a bit more about sort of depression itself, and like how how it may feel for people that either one experience it for themselves and are curious on how other people feel it, and two, how not only experiencing those feelings and those emotions, but how you can actually, like you just did, flip it on its head and turn a negative emotion into a positive emotion and a positive action.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll speak to my experience of depression is
Yeah.
um it's about the words that I'm using because if I'm even being hard on myself, like the imposter syndrome, if I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not where I want to be, all of these thoughts contribute to my depression bucket. Bless you.
Thank you.
Um, all of these little examples can create a bigger pot of depression if we allow them. So if I notice that I'm being harder on myself, like I mentioned, I post every day. Let's say I'm like deleting what I posted, rewriting, deleting, rewriting. I can't figure out what to say. I'm going to notice that in the moment and I'm going to say, Nicole, you know what? You don't have to do this. Like just take you don't have to do this. Do something else. Like this isn't it's not important for me to push through and get this done. Like nothing is worth more than like if you're feeling discomfort, that's more important than getting the task done. So I think we have been speaking about this whole time, really, is like, what are the words you're using? Noticing those things, taking baby steps and just starting the process is how it starts. Start finding evidence, just one thing, like jumping on this call. Like I'm really enjoying speaking with you, Josh.
Yeah,
And
me too.
this is, yeah, giving me evidence to get back out there and do it again. Like, so finding evidence that's empowering you to do the things you want to be doing. Start with one example at a time. It'll get easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's about compounding your wins, right? You can't expect
Love
to.
that.
It's not about finishing a marathon in 30 seconds. A marathon is not a sprint. You're not trying to do it as fast as you can. It's about the longevity of it. However, you're still trying to do the marathon as fast as you can, right? You got to put
Compounding wins.
you got to put one foot in front of the other, and you'll eventually compound. Eventually, you get to a point just after putting one foot in front of the other, you realise how far you've come. You've not got much left.
Yes.
There's one thing that really altered the way I think when I was, or if I ever feel depression, and it's just thinking like, let's say you've got a task to do, right? And instead of being like, oh, I'm only halfway, I say, oh, I'm already halfway.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even just the little word. Did you just change one word in that?
Yeah.
Makes a big
I'm
difference.
already halfway. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking at the marathon, you might not even sign up for a marathon because you're looking at the whole thing. Like I just signed up for my first open water swim.
Oh wow.
I'm Instead of looking at it like I'm anxious, I'm looking at it excited because those are interchangeable. So yeah, if I'd looked at it like I've never done this before, like I'm swimming underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, so
Oh
you
really?
know,
Oh wow.
like if I like, oh my gosh, that's such a long way. Like I don't know if I can do this. Or I'm gonna choose to remind myself that I'm a strong swimmer. It's gonna be really fun and exciting. Like instead of like I'm gonna take it one wave at a time and I'm gonna make it. You may never sign up for the marathon because, yeah, the way we're looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be so awesome. That's a really cool opportunity. That.
Yeah,
That's super cool. So how big is the open water swim then?
it's
Or how long rather?
it's less than 2 miles, a little less than 2 miles, But yeah, I actually signed up because I went like floating with my friends down a river and we ended up getting stuck. And it was a scary situation. It was a little scary because the water was very deep. There was nowhere on the sides to get off. And we were on there. It, it ended up being 6 miles.
Whoa.
Yeah, for 5 hours. So finally we got somewhere and we were safe. But am I choosing that to bring fear into my heart, or am I choosing that to empower myself and say, "Whoa, Nicole, you just swam 6 miles. You live to tell the tale. Like you're a strong swimmer." And that's really why I signed up for this open swim, is because I would have never known if I could swim that 6 miles without being in that situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's mega. Yeah, you're gonna smash that. When you doing that?
In a few weeks,
Oh, so you're gonna
middle of September. Yeah.
how do you how do you practice for that? I
You
feel
know, I'm
like
actually, yeah. I'm practicing by like spending time in cold water and trusting in my swimming. Um, have you, I was reading a book and he mentions that visualizing swimming is just as strong as actually swimming. So I'm just anytime I can, I'm visualizing myself as a strong swimmer and spending time in cold water, and I'm gonna kick some butt. I want to
yeah,
get the
you are.
book
That's
title.
gonna be mega.
Let me see if
I
I
feel
can get
like
the book title for you.
I feel
Yeah.
like that can be a good analogy as well. Sort of, you've got the goal of doing an open water swim, and by actively thinking about it and visualizing yourself doing the thing, you're not only like manifesting it for yourself, you're also actually spending time in cold water and practicing your swimming. Practice makes perfect, right? And you can use that analogy of swimming, setting the goal, enjoying the process, visualization, in terms of mental health, right? If you're in a dip in mental health and you've come to the acceptance stage, you're like, okay, I'm feeling like this. How do I not want to feel like this? Or how do I improve my situation? Visualization, setting goals, and practice.
Yeah. I like to say practice makes improvement, but you gave the visual of like stepping in a puddle of mud and then you're covered in mud.
Mm.
So comparing this with our thoughts of like, how long are you sitting in that puddle of mud? The puddle of mud being like negative thoughts, feeling uncomfortable, discomfort. Um, how long are you sitting there? Are you going to get up and wash yourself off and move on? How long are we going to be sitting in this puddle of mud? You know? So the more we practice changing, recognizing our thoughts, catching them quickly, changing them, finding the right evidence, the more easily we're going to wash ourselves off of the mud and continue moving on. The more quickly that process is going to unfold, where
Yeah,
we're no longer sitting in the mud.
I feel like that's a really we've been on it with the analogies today. It's been great.
Yeah, you
And
are.
I hope the audience can sort of take what we've said in these analogies and sort of actually use it in their day-to-day life to improve their situation. And just to sort of just to sort of wrap this episode up, because I feel like that's a pretty good note to end it on. How would you, if you could say, if you could just say to yourself, right, at your at a low point right now, for other people, what would you say
Yeah,
to yeah? What would you say?
yeah. If you're at a low point, you're sitting in the mud right now. And it's okay because enjoying sitting in the mud and playing in the mud doesn't quite match with this, but recognizing there are some positives to it is what that means. Because I was in a deep depression and I came out, and now that helped me understand how to recognize it now in the moment every day and how to deal with it. So if you're sitting in the mud, then realizing you can just get up and take a shower and it's going to be okay. And if you're listening to this, then you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. There's your evidence.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah, thanks for joining me today. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, so much for having me. It's great. You have so many good analogies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, thank you. So do you.
Thank you.